Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of ANT 207.3, where we discuss everything to do with archaeology, from the mysterious mound builders to the best place to buy your trowel and bullwhip. This is Caesar.
And I'm Cleopatra, and today we will be giving you some insight into some of the legislation that governs archaeology in America today. So, Caesar, did you hear about what they found in downtown Wilmington last fall?
Why no. What did go down last fall, Cleo?
While continuing the seemingly never-ending construction, they stumbled upon human skeletal remains.
Well, hot dog. They found human bodies? What the holy grail did they do with them?
Well, they were intact, and when they found these remains, they got the local university's anthropology department, the sheriff's department, and the North Carolina Office of State Archaeology involved so that they would not further damage the skeletal remains.
How did they end up in downtown Wilmington?
They are believed to be remnants from a cemetery or some sort of burial ground that was located on the property downtown.
It's a good thing they reported it to the right people who could preserve the remains.
Caesar, you are absolutely right. There are laws that have been created so that historical and archaeological remains such as these bodies are not decimated during construction projects. Now, Caesar, we have two special guests on our show to discuss some of these laws today.
Guests? Who are they?
Why, Caesar, let me introduce you to our two experts on the show today, ancient Greek historian Herodotus and Greek goddess of war and wisdom Athena.
Hello. Now before we answer any of your intriguing questions, let me start out by introducing you to one of our favorite archaeology laws, the Archaeological and Historic Preservation Act.
This law built upon the national policy set out in 1935 in the Historic Sites Act to provide for the preservation of historic American sites, buildings, objects, and antiquities of national significance, and was also derived from the practice of salvage archaeology.
Then, in 1960, the Reservoir Salvage Act was put into place. The RSA required the preservation of historic and archaeological data, which might otherwise be lost as a result of the construction of a dam or reservoir.
When these agencies were presented with any evidence that historical or archaeological materials existed or could be present in the proposed reservoir area, they had to preserve these materials before the construction of the reservoir could destroy them.
So they only require this of federal agencies involved in construction of reservoirs?
Well, this is where they ran into problems.
The issue with the RSA was that it only applied to federal agencies that were involved in the construction of reservoirs and related structures, and did not extend this requirement to all federal agencies.
And because of this, there was destruction of archaeological sites throughout the country, frequently through actions funded or supported by federal agencies.
So, in 1974, they amended and expanded the RSA, and the AHPA, the Archaeological and Historic Preservation Act, came into existence.
This new statute required all federal agencies provided for the preservation of historical and archaeological data, which might otherwise be lost or destroyed as the result of any alteration of the terrain caused as a result of any federal construction project of federally licensed activity or program.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Basically, the AHPA expanded the range of federal agencies that had to take archaeological resources into account, and also required for preservation for all historic artifacts or sites found, and not just those of national significance.
Wow, this law is the bomb diggity.
So, who keeps track of all these federal agencies' projects and whether or not they have done the correct research and procedures?
Yeah, there are a lot of federal agencies, and they seem to like building nice, shiny new things.
A great question, my friends. This law assigns the Secretary of the Interior with substantial authority to act for the preservation of historical and archaeological data and remains.
The Secretary of the Interior has been given many jobs when it comes to the preservation of historic and archaeological data. There are sections in the AHPA statute describing his role, but essentially when federal agencies find or are presented with evidence that its activities may cause irreparable damage to or loss of significant historic or archaeological data, they have to notify the Secretary in writing and shall provide the Secretary with appropriate information concerning the project, program, or activity.
The Secretary has the power to undertake any excavation or preservation of archaeological data found or that may be found, or, if the agency has the appropriate means and funds, they can perform the activities necessary for preservation. The information they obtain goes directly to the Secretary.
What does the Secretary do with the information he finds or is given?
They will present the data recovered to the public for inspection and review by way of analysis and publication.
Oh, look, Cleo. We got a caller on the line. Hey there, caller. You are now live on ANT 207.3. Please give us your name and let us know what we can do for you on this cold February day.
Hey, Caesar. My name is Nero of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, and I have a question for these experts.
Go ahead. We archaeologists dig some questions.
Why is this AHPA law so important? I understand that throughout history we have built over historic sites and damaged them, but aren't we more careful nowadays?
This law, along with its precursors such as the Historic Sites Act and the Reservoir Salvage Act, has been put in place to prevent construction over historic sites and one of the factors that makes us more careful.
Without statutes like this, archaeological data could be lost or corrupted by construction. With this law in place, federal agencies are required to preserve any items of historic or archaeological significance.
Well, folks, I am sad to say that we have to wrap things up for today.
Yeah, it looks like we have run out of time. Herodotus, Athena, thank you for joining us on the show. And no, we'd love to have you again.
No. Thank you for having us on your show.
We love informing the public and all their mummies about archaeology laws.
Well, if anyone has more questions for our two experts, don't hesitate to post on our wall or email us. And remember, if you don't know what it is, it's probably ceremonial.